The vast quantum scanner hummed with subtle energy, its crystalline sensors probing the distant solar system with meticulous precision. Admiral Zara Lynn of the Stellar Concordance leaned forward, her multi-jointed appendages carefully positioned around the holographic display. Hundreds of light years from her homeworld, the scanner had captured something unexpected about a small blue-green planet orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. Earth appeared deceptively simple. Primitive communication networks blanketed the planet's surface, a chaotic web of electromagnetic signals that seemed more like background noise than sophisticated communication. The planet's inhabitants had barely established a consistent presence beyond their own atmosphere. Their most advanced space exploration vehicles were little more than chemical-powered rockets that could barely reach the edge of their own planetary system. The initial report from the Deep Space Reconnaissance Team was brutally straightforward. Classification: emerging technological civilization, threat level, minimal, potential for assimilation, high. The Stellar Concordance had encountered thousands of such worlds during its expansive history. Civilizations that showed promise were typically integrated, their resources harvested, their populations gradually absorbed into the collective galactic infrastructure. What the scanners could not detect was the complex network of human potential, simmering just beneath the surface. In a small research facility nestled in the Swiss Alps, a quantum physicist adjusted her communication prototype. Her team had been working for months on a breakthrough that could potentially create instantaneous communication across unprecedented distances. Most of her colleagues thought the project was impossible, a theoretical exercise at best. But she saw something different. Halfway across the world, in a crowded manufacturing facility in Shenzhen, a team of engineers was developing a revolutionary cooling system for advanced computer processors. What seemed like a mundane improvement in electronics manufacturing was actually a critical step in solving complex computational challenges that would reshape technological capabilities. Meanwhile, in the depths of the Pacific Ocean, a marine research vessel deployed an autonomous underwater drone equipped with artificial intelligence, designed to map unexplored oceanic regions. The drone's learning algorithms were so sophisticated that it could adapt to unexpected environmental challenges in real time, making decisions that seemed almost intuitive. These isolated moments of innovation represented something the Stellar Concordance's scanners could never truly comprehend. Human potential was not measured by current technological capabilities, but by an unprecedented capacity for rapid adaptation and creative problem-solving. Admiral Zara Lynn's preliminary assessment missed the most crucial element. Humans were not just another species to be cataloged and conquered. They were a dynamic, unpredictable force of nature. The quantum scanner continued its methodical sweep, recording data points that told only a fraction of the story. It captured the planet's industrial output, its communication networks, its technological infrastructure. But it could not measure imagination. It could not quantify the human spirit of exploration, the relentless curiosity that had driven this species from primitive tool-making to global communication networks in a mere few thousand years. In the Stellar Concordance's vast archive of planetary assessments, Earth was just another data point, a young civilization, technologically limited with minimal defensive capabilities. Another world to be integrated, another resource to be harvested. They were wrong. Catastrophically wrong. The scanner continued its work, transmitting streams of data back to the Concordance's central analysis hub. Millions of light-years away, complex algorithms processed the information, creating predictive models about Earth's potential resistance. Each calculation was based on historical data from thousands of previous planetary integrations. Not a single algorithm could predict what was coming. Somewhere on Earth, a child looked up at the night sky and dreamed of exploration. A researcher completed a breakthrough experiment. An engineer solved an impossible problem. A programmer wrote a line of code that would change everything. The invasion was coming, and humanity had no idea how completely it would change the galaxy forever. The first wave of stellar concordance ships descended through Earth's atmosphere with calculated precision. Massive vessels that defied conventional physics materialized above major cities. their energy signatures unlike anything human technology had ever encountered. Sleek and angular, the ships seemed to bend light around them, creating an almost ethereal presence that simultaneously terrified and mesmerized those who witnessed their arrival. In Washington, D.C., the initial moment of contact was surreal. The massive ship hovering above the National Mall cast an enormous shadow that swallowed entire city blocks. Government communication networks went dark instantaneously, a precision strike designed to decapitate human leadership in a single moment. Military installations across the continent experienced simultaneous system failures, with communication arrays, power grids, and defense networks collapsing within seconds. What the stellar concordance did not anticipate was the human response. Inside, an underground emergency command center beneath Colorado, a team of military and civilian experts had been preparing for scenarios far beyond conventional warfare. When the first wave of attacks hit, they didn't panic. Instead, they activated carefully developed contingency protocols that had been refined through decades of cybersecurity research, disaster preparedness, and strategic planning. Captain Maria Rodriguez, a veteran cyber warfare specialist, watched as the primary communication networks went offline. Her fingers moved with practiced efficiency, activating a mesh network of alternative communication systems that had been secretly developed and distributed across the country. These weren't just backup systems, they were adaptive, self-healing, networks designed to route around damage and maintain communication even under extreme conditions. Across the globe, similar scenes played out. In Tokyo, a group of network engineers began implementing emergency protocols developed after years of studying potential large-scale communication disruptions. In Mumbai, a team of researchers quickly repurposed satellite communication technologies to create makeshift communication channels. In São Paulo, community leaders activated local emergency response systems that had been quietly developed in anticipation of various potential global threats. The Stellar Concordance's initial attack was designed to create total chaos. Their bioadaptive weapons were supposed to neutralize human resistance within hours. These were technologies that had subjugated hundreds of civilizations across the galaxy. Targeted electromagnetic pulses, quantum destabilization fields, and neural disruption waves, weapons that had brought entire planetary populations to their knees in minutes. But humans were different. Within 30 minutes of the initial attack, the first counter-response began. It wasn't a military strike, it wasn't a technological countermeasure. It was something far more unexpected. Information sharing. Social media platforms, despite being partially disabled, became conduits of survival information. People used encrypted messaging apps, amateur radio networks, and local communication systems to share real-time information about the invasion. Community networks that had been developed for natural disaster response now became improvised resistance communication channels. Military units that should have been completely disabled began to reorganize. Not through traditional command structures, but through decentralized adaptive networks that the alien invaders couldn't comprehend. A tank unit in the Midwest reconnected with its command through a network of civilian trucks, equipped with modified communication equipment. An Air Force squadron maintained coordination, using a patchwork of satellite systems and ground-based relay stations. In Silicon Valley, technology companies that had been developing next-generation communication technologies suddenly found themselves on the front lines of a war they never expected to fight. Startup engineers began developing real-time counter-intrusion technologies, creating defensive algorithms faster than the Stellar Concordance could adapt their attack systems. The invasion was supposed to take hours. It was designed to be a surgical strike that would neutralize human resistance before it could even begin. Instead, humanity was transforming the very nature of the conflict. Each moment that passed made it clear. The Stellar Concordance had made a catastrophic miscalculation. These weren't just humans. They were a species of problem solvers, of innovators, of survivors. The first day of the invasion was ending, and contrary to every predictive model, humanity wasn't broken. They were just getting started. The research facility looked nothing like a traditional military installation. Nestled in the mountains of Chile, It was a collaborative space where scientists from around the world had gathered in the weeks following the initial invasion. What had begun as a desperate attempt to understand alien technology had transformed into humanity's most crucial weapon of resistance. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before a massive holographic display, her eyes reflecting the intricate energy signatures of a captured alien communication device. Surrounding her were experts from disciplines that would have never collaborated under normal circumstances: quantum physicists, electrical engineers, computer scientists, linguists, and materials researchers. The invasion had erased previous boundaries of academic discipline and national origin. "Look at the quantum entanglement matrix," she said, pointing to a swirling pattern of energy that defied traditional understanding of communication technology. "It's not just a transmission system. It's a complex adaptive network that can reconfigure itself instantaneously." A young engineer named Marcus leaned forward, his fingers already sketching preliminary designs on a flexible digital interface. "If we can understand the base principles, we might be able to develop a counter-communication system," he muttered, more to himself than to the group. What made human innovation truly remarkable was not just technical expertise, but the ability to approach problems from completely unexpected angles. Where the Stellar Concordance's scientists would have approached the alien technology with rigid, predetermined methodologies, these researchers saw a puzzle to be deconstructed and reimagined. Across the planet, similar scenes were unfolding. In a converted warehouse in Lagos, a team of software developers had begun reverse engineering alien computer systems using nothing more than captured communication modules and an extraordinary amount of creativity. They weren't trying to simply understand the technology, they were preparing to subvert it. In Singapore, a group of materials scientists discovered something extraordinary about the alien ship's outer hull. What appeared to be a seamless, impenetrable surface was actually a complex nanomaterial with fascinating molecular properties. Within days, they had developed preliminary techniques for compromising its structural integrity. The communication breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A linguistics professor who specialized in computational language theory realized that the alien communication systems weren't just technological, they were fundamentally linguistic. Each energy pulse carried complex informational patterns that resembled a form of distributed language. "It's not just a transmission," Dr. Rodriguez explained during an emergency global briefing. "It's a conversation. The entire communication network is constantly negotiating and renegotiating its own structure." This revelation changed everything. Hackers, linguists, computer scientists, and communication experts began collaborating on a completely new approach to understanding and disrupting alien technologies. They weren't just trying to block communications. They were learning to speak the technological language of the invaders. In a converted data center in Mumbai, a team of network engineers developed a breakthrough. By understanding the adaptive nature of the alien communication systems, they created a virus-like communication protocol that could infiltrate and destabilize the invaders' networks. It wasn't destruction, it was technological jujitsu, using the aliens' own communication principles against them. The most remarkable aspect of human innovation was its collaborative and open nature. While the Stellar Concordance's technological development was hierarchical and controlled, human innovation happened through a chaotic, distributed network of researchers who shared information almost instantaneously. Every captured piece of alien technology became a global research project. Universities, research centers, and independent laboratories shared findings within hours. What would have taken the Stellar Concordance months or years was being processed and understood by humans in days. Marcus looked up from his designs, a slight smile crossing his face. "They have no idea what's coming," he said quietly. Dr. Rodriguez nodded. The alien invasion had made one critical miscalculation. They had not just attacked a planet, they had awakened a species of problem solvers, of innovators who saw every challenge as an opportunity to create something entirely new. Humanity was not just resisting, they were reimagining the very nature of technological conflict. Deep within the Stellar Concordance's central analysis chamber, behavioral scientists struggled to comprehend the human response to invasion. Their predictive models, developed over millennia of galactic conquests, had completely broken down when confronted with human psychology. Commander Zarek X reviewed the latest behavioral assessments with growing confusion. Every previous civilization they had encountered followed a predictable pattern of resistance, initial defiance, followed by gradual submission, and ultimately, complete integration. Humans were different, impossibly, incomprehensibly different. In the heart of New York City, which should have been paralyzed by fear, something extraordinary was happening. As alien ships hovered overhead and communication networks flickered, communities began to organize in ways that defied all conventional understanding of crisis response. A community center in the Bronx transformed into a makeshift communication hub. Elderly residents who had survived previous global challenges shared survival strategies with younger generations. A retired electrical engineer helped local teenagers modify radio equipment to maintain communication networks. A group of school teachers organized educational programs to keep children calm and informed, turning potential panic into a collective learning experience. In Tokyo, street vendors and tech workers collaborated to create improvised communication systems. Small businesses shared resources, converting their shops into emergency support centers. Restaurant owners provided food to first responders. Tech companies opened their offices as temporary shelters, their vast server rooms becoming command centers for local resistance efforts. The psychological warfare techniques that had worked on countless other civilizations simply failed against humans. Where the stellar concordance expected fear, they found resilience. Where they anticipated submission, they encountered creativity. A captured human psychological profile revealed something truly perplexing. Humans didn't just resist, they found humor in the most impossible situations. Intercepted communication showed soldiers cracking jokes during bombardments. Social media platforms, despite partial disruption, became venues for shared experiences, dark humor, and collective emotional support. In a small town in Kansas, a group of farmers transformed their agricultural equipment into makeshift defensive mechanisms. They weren't just fighting. They were solving a complex problem with the same creativity they used to manage unpredictable harvest seasons. Their local communication network became a model of decentralized resistance that baffled alien strategists. Thite. Most shocking discovery came from human entertainment and cultural archives. The Stellar Concordance's researchers found extensive collections of stories, films, and literature that had long imagined scenarios of alien invasion. Humans hadn't just fantasized about such encounters, they had systematically thought through potential responses, creating a kind of collective psychological preparation that no other civilization possessed. Psychological warfare units within, the Stellar Concordance began to experience unprecedented levels of professional breakdown. Their standard tactics of intimidation and psychological manipulation simply dissolved when confronted with human complexity. In Melbourne, a group of performance artists began creating live-streamed shows that both documented the invasion and provided emotional support to their community. Their broadcasts became a form of resistance, transforming fear into collective storytelling and shared experience. Refugee centers became hubs of unexpected innovation. People from different backgrounds, suddenly displaced, began creating new social structures. Language barriers dissolved as people found creative ways to communicate. Skills were shared, resources pooled, and a sense of collective purpose emerged that the invaders could not comprehend. The most critical psychological weapon humans possessed was hope. Not a naive optimism, but a calculated, pragmatic belief in their ability to overcome challenges. Each setback became an opportunity for innovation. Each moment of potential despair transformed into collective problem-solving. Commander Zarek X reviewed the latest behavioral reports with growing concern. The human response defied every predictive model. They weren't just resisting, they were reimagining the very concept of resistance. Somewhere in the world, a child looked up at the alien ships and saw not terror, but possibility. A group of strangers became a community. A seemingly impossible challenge became an opportunity for growth. The invasion had made one critical miscalculation. They hadn't just attacked a planet. They had awakened a species of storytellers, innovators, and collective dreamers. The International Science Collaboration Center in Geneva became the unexpected nerve center of humanity's resistance. What had once been a facility dedicated to peaceful scientific research now pulsed with an energy of collective survival. Representatives from every continent worked side by side, their previous national differences evaporating in the face of a global threat. Dr. Elena Rodriguez looked out over the massive central hall. Physicists from China worked alongside engineers from Brazil, while computer scientists from Nigeria collaborated with materials researchers from Canada. The room buzzed with a frantic, yet focused energy that defied all previous models of international cooperation. "We're not just defending," she announced to the assembled team. "We're reimagining how we interact with technology, with each other, and with the universe itself." The breakthrough came from an unexpected combination of disciplines. A marine biologist from Australia discovered that the principles of neural networks in deep-sea organism communication shared surprising similarities with the captured alien communication systems. A quantum physicist from India realized this could be the key to developing a counter-communication strategy. In Silicon Valley, technology companies that had previously been fierce competitors now shared research in real time. Open-source platforms became critical infrastructure, with developers from around the world contributing to a global defense network. What would have taken years of bureaucratic negotiations now happened in hours. Space agencies that had once been rivals now coordinated their efforts with unprecedented speed. The European Space Agency, NASA, the Chinese National Space Administration, and the Indian Space Research Organization formed a unified research team. Satellites were repurposed, communication networks were reconfigured, and every available technological resource was brought to bear. The medical community responded with equal intensity. Researchers from leading hospitals and research institutions around the world began studying the physiological effects of alien technologies. They weren't just looking to defend, they were seeking to understand and ultimately neutralize the invaders' biological warfare capabilities. In a converted research facility in Johannesburg, a team of biotechnology experts made a critical discovery. By analyzing the molecular structure of the alien weapons, they began developing adaptive countermeasures. It wasn't just about protection, it was about understanding and transforming the very nature of biological interaction. Universities became critical infrastructure. Academic networks that had previously been used for research collaboration now became key communication and innovation centers. Students became crucial contributors, their fresh perspectives and technological fluency, providing unexpected solutions to complex challenges. The global response defied traditional models of conflict and cooperation. National boundaries became increasingly irrelevant. A researcher in Argentina could contribute a critical piece of code that would be implemented by a team in Japan within minutes. Communication networks became truly global, adaptive, and resilient. Renewable energy projects that had been developed in response to climate challenges now became critical to resistance efforts. Solar farms in the Sahara, wind energy facilities in the North Sea, and geothermal plants in Iceland were rapidly reconfigured to support emergency communication and defense networks. Indigenous knowledge systems played a crucial role. Traditional ecological knowledge from communities around the world provided unexpected insights into adaptation and survival. A group of marine researchers in the Pacific Islands used traditional navigation techniques to develop new communication strategies that the alien technologies couldn't easily track. The most remarkable aspect of this global collaboration was its organic, decentralized nature. There was no single command center, no hierarchical structure that could be easily disrupted. Instead, it was a living, breathing network of human innovation that could rapidly adapt and respond. Dr. Rodriguez watched as a team from South Korea developed a breakthrough in quantum communication technology, simultaneously shared with researchers in Kenya and Canada. "This is our real weapon," she thought. Not any single piece of technology, but the ability to work together to learn, to adapt. 2. The stellar concordance had expected to find a divided, easily conquered planet. Instead, they had awakened a global organism of collective intelligence. Humanity was no longer a collection of separate nations and cultures. It had become something entirely new, a unified, adaptive, global intelligence capable of reimagining its own existence. Somewhere, a child looked at a screen showing scientists from around the world working together and understood that something extraordinary was happening. This wasn't just a defense. This was a transformation. The converted research facility in the Rocky Mountains looked nothing like a traditional military installation. Banks of quantum computers hummed alongside modified alien technology, creating a hybrid system that defied conventional understanding of technological development. Dr. Marcus Chen stood before a holographic display, his fingers tracing complex energy patterns that merged human and alien technological principles. What had begun as a desperate attempt to understand captured alien systems had transformed into something far more revolutionary. "We're not just reverse engineering," he explained to the assembled team of researchers, engineers, and military strategists. "We're creating an entirely new technological paradigm." The breakthrough came from an unexpected combination of disciplines. A team of materials scientists had discovered that the molecular structure of the alien ship's outer hull could be manipulated using a combination of quantum entanglement and biological adaptive principles. What should have taken decades of research was being developed in weeks. In a laboratory in Seoul, a group of electrical engineers developed a communication system that could predict and adapt to alien communication protocols faster than the invaders could modify their systems. It wasn't just defense, it was a form of technological jujitsu that turned the aliens' own technologies against them. The most critical development emerged from an interdisciplinary team that included quantum physicists, linguists, and computer scientists. They realized that the alien communication systems were more than just technological networks. They were a form of distributed intelligence that could be understood and ultimately manipulated. Satellite networks that had been partially disabled became platforms for a new kind of adaptive communication. Ground stations in remote locations were quickly modified to create a global mesh network that could rapidly reconfigure itself. If one node was compromised, the entire system would instantly adapt, routing communication through alternative pathways. A breakthrough in nanotechnology allowed for the development of adaptive defensive systems. Small, intelligent particles could be deployed that would analyze and neutralize alien technological threats in real time. What had once been passive, defensive technologies became active, learning systems that could anticipate and counter alien attacks. The converted shipyards in Hamburg became critical research centers. Naval engineers worked alongside quantum computing experts to develop spacecraft technologies that merged human ingenuity with captured alien design principles. Each modification was a step towards understanding technologies that had previously seemed incomprehensible. In the Amazon rainforest, a research team discovered that traditional ecological knowledge could provide insights into adaptive systems. The complex communication networks of forest ecosystems became a model for developing resilient technological infrastructure. The most shocking developments came from unexpected sources. A group of high school students in Mumbai developed an open-source communication protocol that could rapidly adapt to changing technological landscapes. Their solution was so elegant that it was immediately adopted by global research teams. Renewable energy technologies that had been developed to combat climate change now became critical to the technological resistance. Solar collection systems were modified to capture and redirect energy in ways that disrupted alien technological systems. Wind farms became more than energy producers. They became complex sensor networks that could detect and analyze alien technological signatures. Dr. Chen watched as a new system came online. It wasn't just a piece of technology, it was a living, adaptive network that could learn and modify itself faster than any previously known system. The lines between biological and technological systems were becoming increasingly blurred. The stellar concordance's technological supremacy was built on millennia of controlled, hierarchical development. Humanity's technological approach was fundamentally different, chaotic, distributed, and impossibly adaptive. In a small laboratory in Cape Town, A team of biotechnology researchers discovered a way to use organic computing principles that merged biological neural networks with quantum computing technologies. Their work suggested that technology could be something far more fluid and alive than previous understanding had allowed. The invasion had triggered a technological renaissance that would reshape humanity's understanding of innovation, communication, and the very nature of technological development. Somewhere, a young researcher looked at a holographic display and understood that they were witnessing something extraordinary. This wasn't just resistance, this was evolution. The final confrontation began not with a massive military engagement, but with a subtle shift in the global technological landscape. Commander Zara Kex of the Stellar Concordance watched in mounting disbelief as human systems began to not just resist but actively deconstruct and repurpose alien technologies. Deep in the Pacific Ocean, a network of adaptive underwater communication arrays came online. These were not simple defensive systems, but living technological organisms that could predict, adapt, and counter alien communication protocols in microseconds. What had begun as a desperate attempt to survive had transformed into something far more profound. The battle space was everywhere and nowhere. Traditional concepts of warfare dissolved as human resistance became a distributed, intelligent network that could not be easily targeted or defeated. Military installations were no longer fixed points of defense but fluid, adaptive systems that could instantly reconfigure themselves. In the skies above major cities, alien ships found themselves caught in a technological web they could not comprehend. Communication systems became battlegrounds of pure information, with human networks creating cascading disruption patterns that disabled alien technologies faster than they could be repaired. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood in the Global Coordination Center, her team working with an almost musical precision. They were no longer just defending. They were actively reshaping the very nature of the conflict. Each alien technological attack was met not with direct resistance, but with a form of technological jujitsu that turned the invaders' strengths into vulnerabilities. A breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A team of linguists and quantum communication experts discovered that the alien communication systems were fundamentally a form of distributed language. By understanding this, humans could not just intercept, but actively manipulate these communication networks. Satellite networks that had been partially disabled became platforms of resistance. Ground stations in remote locations created a global mesh network that could rapidly reconfigure itself. If one node was compromised, the entire system would instantly adapt, routing communication through alternative pathways. The most critical moment came when human technological systems began to exhibit behaviors that defied the Stellar Concordance's understanding of artificial intelligence. These were not simple adaptive systems, but something more. A form of collective intelligence that could learn and respond at speeds that seemed to defy known physical limitations. In orbit above the Earth, alien ships found themselves increasingly isolated. Their communication networks were being systematically dismantled, not through brute force but through an elegant deconstruction that left them increasingly unable to coordinate their invasion. A group of researchers in Sao Paulo developed a breakthrough that would change everything. By understanding the quantum entanglement principles underlying alien communication, they created a system that could not just intercept but actively rewrite alien technological communication streams. The battle was won not through traditional military might, but through a fundamental reimagining of technological interaction. Human systems were no longer passive recipients of technological assault. They had become active, intelligent networks that could anticipate, adapt, and ultimately transform the very nature of the conflict. Commander Zara Kex received the first reports of systemic failure. It wasn't a single point of defeat, but a cascading collapse of their technological superiority. The human response defied every predictive model, every strategic projection they had developed over millennia of galactic conquest. In a small research facility in Kenya, a team of young scientists watched as their adaptive communication system began to systematically dismantle the alien invasion's technological infrastructure. They weren't just defending, they were learning, growing, evolving in real time. The final moments of the confrontation were almost anticlimactic. The Stellar Concordance's invasion fleet found itself increasingly isolated, its communication networks dismantled, its technological superiority transformed into a cascading vulnerability. Somewhere, a child looked up at the sky and understood that something extraordinary had happened. Humanity had not just survived. They had transformed the very nature of technological conflict. The invasion was over, but something far more significant had just begun. The diplomatic chambers of the Stellar Concordance were unlike any human conference room. Crystalline walls pulsed with subtle energy, reflecting the complex emotional state of the gathered representatives. Commander Zarakek stood at the center, presenting a report that would reshape galactic understanding of intelligent life. Humanity is not just another species to be categorized, the commander began, her translation device rendering the words in precise, measured tones. They represent a fundamental reimagining of technological and social evolution. The invasion's aftermath revealed something far more profound than a simple military conflict. Humanity had not just defended itself, it had transformed the very nature of interstellar interaction. Scientific teams from around the globe began documenting their technological and social innovations, creating a comprehensive record of how a seemingly vulnerable civilization had completely upended galactic expectations. In Geneva, the International Science Collaboration Center became a pivotal point of interstellar communication. Researchers from every continent worked together to prepare for potential future interactions with extraterrestrial civilizations. The lessons learned during the invasion were not about military might, but about adaptability, collective intelligence, and the power of diverse perspectives. The most surprising development came from unexpected sources. Indigenous knowledge systems that had been marginalized for centuries proved to be critical in developing adaptive technologies. Traditional ecological understanding from communities in the Amazon, the Arctic, and the Pacific Islands provided insights into complex adaptive systems that transformed technological research. Medical researchers discovered that human adaptive capabilities went far beyond technological innovation. The physiological response to the invasion had triggered unprecedented levels of neuroplasticity. The human brain had literally rewired itself in response to an unprecedented threat, showing levels of adaptability that defied previous scientific understanding. Educational systems around the world underwent a massive transformation. Schools and universities began developing curricula that emphasized adaptive thinking, interdisciplinary collaboration, and creative problem-solving. The invasion had demonstrated that the most critical skill was not specialized knowledge, but the ability to learn, adapt, and reimagine existing systems. The global communication networks that had been developed during the conflict became a new form of international infrastructure. What had begun as a survival mechanism transformed into a platform for unprecedented global collaboration. Researchers in Cape Town could instantly collaborate with colleagues in Tokyo, sharing insights and innovations in real time. Technological development took on a new direction. Instead of linear, hierarchical innovation, research became a distributed, collaborative process. Open-source platforms became the primary model of technological development, with contributions coming from unexpected sources, including high school students and community researchers. The Stellar Concordance found itself in an unprecedented position. Humanity was not a civilization to be conquered or integrated. They were a dynamic, evolving system that challenged every previous model of technological and social development. Diplomatic discussions revealed the true depth of human complexity. Where previous civilizations had been easily categorized and understood, humans defied simple classification. Their ability to find humor in crisis, to collaborate across previous boundaries, and to transform challenges into opportunities was something entirely new. Environmental technologies developed during the invasion transformed global approaches to sustainability. The adaptive systems created to resist the alien attack became critical tools for addressing climate challenges and resource management. What had begun as a defensive strategy became a new model of ecological interaction. In orbit above the Earth, The remnants of alien technology became sites of collaborative research. International teams worked together to understand and potentially adapt these technologies, turning the tools of potential destruction into platforms of mutual understanding. The most profound transformation happened in human self-understanding. The invasion had revealed a collective capability that went far beyond previous self-perception. Humanity was no longer a collection of separate nations and cultures, but a global, adaptive intelligence capable of reimagining its own existence. Commander, Zarakex's final report to the Stellar Concordance was both a warning and a revelation. Humanity was not just another species to be understood. They were a fundamental force of innovation, adaptation, and collective intelligence that would reshape galactic civilization. Somewhere, a child looked up at the stars and understood that something extraordinary had happened. The invasion was over, but a much larger journey was just beginning. The universe would never be the same.